could always use more heroes.
Hello and welcome back to episode 5 of Hero Recall, your Overwatch podcast. My name is Tom, and with me on the other side of the non-existent wall, because I guess you guys aren't scary enough to build walls in Canada, is James TigratoPower. How is your morning going, sir?
Well, it's afternoon now.
It's afternoon? Yeah, I forget.
I worked for 5 hours and I came home. That's what happened.
How was work?
It was chill.
It was chill.
It was chill. I put in my 2 weeks notice, so I'm sure I'm going to get a text soon being like, what the fuck? But anyway.
It's a glorious feeling, isn't it?
Yes.
What's that? Have you ever left a job before?
No, that was literally my first job.
Scary.
Literally my first job, and my second job, like, between first job, working at a bakery and a grocery store, second job, working for the government of Canada.
Gotta start somewhere.
Big career progression, let's just say that much.
I think my favorite time leaving a job, before we jump into the Overwatch stuff, we're just going to chat for a bit. My favorite time leaving a job was I was at a really shit job. It was like a DVD store, you know? And
Blockbuster.
No, not that store.
I know.
I really liked that job. I did work for Blockbuster. No, it was a different store. It was called something like Gray's. I can't even remember. It's that long ago. God, I'm old. So anyway, my boss was just like the worst human possible. She was such a nightmare. And I was like so furious about everything to do with the job. I decided like on the spot that I wanted to leave. So I didn't like quit and walk out. I planned it. I was like, I'm going to leave tomorrow, but I want to do it in style. So what I did was I wrote a letter. It was kind of like one of those letters that it's kind of like, you know, fuck you, you're cool, fuck you, you know, like that type of thing. Wrote it all up. I put it under the kettle at work, so I knew someone would find it like at lunchtime, and I just walked out the door. And as I was walking out, because it was like a CD DVD place, they were playing some really loud music, and they were playing Beautiful Day by U2. So as I'm walking out, it's going, what a beautiful day, and I was like, I can't wait for someone to find that letter. I did actually see my boss later, and she gave me some serious death stares, and I'm pretty sure she called me a cunt. But either way, this is the Overwatch podcast, Hero Recall, and as such, we're going to be focusing on a hero today alongside all the Overwatch news, the Overwatch League news, and of course a bit of personal chat as well. Our hero focus this week, do you want to tell them what it is or who it is?
The one who won't get on the payload.
Hanzo. Hanzo is our hero choice. I think Genji's more to blame for that, but yes, Hanzo is the
meme.
Hero.
The meme is Hanzo.
The meme is Hanzo. So if you're just joining us, if it's your first time tuning into Hero Recall, first of all, thank you. We really appreciate the growth we've had recently. But this does go out on YouTube. It does go out on audio platforms. Now we're even on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it. We're on all of them.
Spotify. You can listen to us on your PlayStation.
Yeah, it's a good time. Let's get going, I guess. So let's start with the Overwatch news, and the Overwatch news is significant this week. Usually there's like a couple, two, three things, maybe, you know, because they released a patch or something or an event. So Archives is kind of coming to an end. And how have we felt about Archives in general at this point? I'm kind of meh on it, to be honest. I'm not really, you know what I mean? I'm just kind of like,
Well, we can certainly say that it was an event.
It was an event.
That's pretty much what we can say about it.
There was skins.
I just like, Matt, the exciting part of Archives for me has been playing on PC for the first time and getting loot boxes. I got the Ash skin the other day on PC.
Nice.
I'm like, I'm never going to use this because I'm total trash right now. But well, maybe I'll use it. Maybe I'll be better now that my refresh rate is fixed. But I got the Ash skin.
At least one of us has that fixed. I'm still working on mine. I don't know what the hell's going on with it. But yeah, Ash skin is cool. I like the Ash skin for this event. I like the clutch bomb. That's a favorite of mine.
Freaking designer dynamite.
Right? Designer dynamite.
Mood.
I love it. All right. So one of the things about Archives, which has sort of come out, it came out a couple weeks into Archives now. It's been about a week or so since I saw it, but there was kind of a follow-up to it where they had this the Overwatch like social media team, if you will, released this clip which was the interview of, the interrogation of Maximilian, where he's basically confessing a lot to like where certain people are. And they're setting something up, and then they make this thing like in 3 weeks' time, they're going to be doing this meeting in this place. And it kind of seems like, and I don't know for sure, but it kind of seems like either we're getting a part 2 to Archives, or they're going to roll in an event into Anniversary, or maybe like a short movie or something. I don't know. What did you make of that? Did you listen to it?
Yes. So specifically, since it's not really a spoiler, I'm just going to say what it is. Basically, Maximilian says, okay, so you want to meet Doomfist, right? Doomfist is going to be in Singapore in 3 weeks' time. This kind of what everyone is thinking is setting up for how they capture Doomfist. And maybe the whole incident, I don't know if it will be the same thing, but it was the people who fought Doomfist in the cutscene when Doomfist was being released. Genji, Tracer, Winston. Who's in the mission? Genji, Tracer, Winston, and Mercy. So we don't know where Mercy was during that. And in that cutscene, Doomfist kind of grabs Tracer's chronal accelerator and destroys it, and then she starts fizzling out of existence. She didn't die from it. Winston somehow saved her, I guess. But this is what people think is what's going to happen. That this is related to that somehow. I don't know if it will be a mission. I don't know if it will be a cutscene or like one of their shorts. I'm kind of thinking it will be a short at this point. At first I was like, oh yeah, they're going to make another mission. I don't think they're going to make another mission. I think they're going to make another movie of the type of like Shooting Star for Diva or May's Eco Point. I forget what it was called, but the animated shorts like Alive and Recall and all those ones.
I don't know. See, like, I'm torn on it because I feel like a movie would be fine. I'd be fine with that. It's definitely not going to be a mission, I don't think, because my thought was that they were going to do it within the Archives. Like, they were going to have, like, half of the Archives event time be the part 1 of the mission, and then they were going to release a part 2 for the second part, mainly because people were complaining about the first part being so short and being kind of like a non-event, so to speak. So you have, the original Archives event from King's Row. You have the Retribution last year, which was wonderful. But then there was a lot of complaints, obviously, about the sort of recycling of enemies and how short this particular one was. So my thought was that maybe they were going to like surprise us with the bamboozle and just kind of like throw out a part 2 where like everything just was crazy awesome. But I don't think that's what they're going to do, just based upon the fact that that event is wrapping up. It is going away, I think, Tuesday. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with it. I know something's going to happen with it. I just don't know what. So I guess we'll see. But, yeah, I thought that was interesting. Anyway, I liked that they're doing that. It remains to be seen what it actually is. So, moving on, they did release a really huge thing recently for the PC players, which is now actually working its way slowly to console, which was Workshop. So if you're unfamiliar with Workshop, which if you're watching, listening to an Overwatch podcast, you probably should know it. Workshop is allowing players to basically design their own game modes within Overwatch, and they're making some crazy shit. Not only do you have like really far out there things like bastions that fire Torbjorns, homing Torbjorns no less, at people. I've also seen Pong. I've seen Snake. I've seen all kinds of really weird uses of this. There was Torbjorn Golf I saw the other day, which was amazing.
I have seen. I saw literally a mode where McCree, when he does his wave, which is like the point, if he does that while looking at someone, they die. This is the shit people are making.
Did you see the hot potato McCree?
No.
So like you shoot somebody or punch them and they start burning. And then you have to like shoot or punch someone else and then it passes the potato. Yeah, and you stop burning and you can get health. It's really funny. But yeah, I mean, people are really genuinely coming up with some awesome shit. And like half of me thinks like, this is a step forward. This is definitely a dramatic step forward for the game, for longevity and things like that. Half of me thinks Jeff's just sick of people asking for shit and is like, here, fucking make it yourself. Here's all the stuff, whatever you want. You can buff Mercy through the roof if you feel like it, whatever you want to do. But it's really cool. It's really cool. It's really good to see how ingenious some of these people have been with putting this stuff together. I'm sure console players can't wait to get their hands on it. And I personally would like to at least experience it on console. I haven't have the PTR. I haven't played any of them yet, I got to be honest, but I do just like that it exists. I think it's a really neat addition to the game. So have you had a chance to actually play any yet?
I'm actually, here's full disclosure, I'm not really interested in playing the workshop modes myself. I'm excited for people who want to use it, but it's just a distraction from me getting better at the regular game, honestly. So, like, sometime I'm sure, like, sometimes I play with some certain friends, there's these special game modes, and they're just going to take those to the next level because that was just them making them with the regular game. But it's going to be fun. Every once in a while, we'll probably play one of those, but I'm not really going to partake too much in it. I'm excited for people who are going to use this and make some cool stuff, and I'll probably watch some videos on it, like people making these crazy things. It's just something I'm not going to use that much.
I was thinking we might be able to put together a stream where we just find like the best of the workshop and play it and just kind of go through the game modes and see how they are.
See, like that I could go for, but
get behind that. All right.
It wouldn't be a regular thing for me.
Fair enough. All right. So moving on to more genuine kind of news surrounding Overwatch, big changes that came in during Season 16 of competitive play. And this was a change that doesn't really affect the majority of the player base. It's only players that happen to be minus 4,000 SR, so most of us. And the change was actually an interesting one. It came from the top, and starting with Season 16, they have now made it so that Grandmaster players are no longer able to stack past a duo. So you can only solo or duo queue in Grandmaster. I'll read the actual, like, the post that was made by Scott Mercer, who's a developer for Overwatch, so you can see their reasoning behind it. But starting with Season 16 of competitive play, Grandmaster players will no longer be able to queue for competitive matches in a party size larger than 2. In an effort to have higher quality and more fun matches for everyone, Overwatch actively tries to place parties of similar sizes together to create fair matches. For the vast majority of players, this feature of the matchmaking system works reasonably well. For our Grandmaster players, making fair matches is always more difficult, simply because there are fewer players of their skill level to place together. It's even harder if we allow Grandmasters to queue with larger groups. We believe this change will help create better quality matches for all Grandmaster players. Your thoughts on that?
Complete honestly, I don't really care because it doesn't affect me. That's my opinion. I think it'll be good for the Grandmaster players. Like, they'll find matches faster, and it will suck because they won't be able to, like, stack, but most of them don't stack anyway. Like, you see the Overwatch League players streaming, they're usually playing just with themselves or just with one other person anyway. So I don't think it really affects that much. It's just them being like, here, we're going to impose a limitation so that this can't happen.
Do you see it as a punishment, potentially, though, for some players? Because, like me personally, like, I pretty much only solo or duo queue anyway. It's either me and you, or me and Keegan, or I'm by myself. So do you think that for Grandmaster, and I can't imagine there are that many Grandmaster, like 6 friends that are all Grandmasters. I can't imagine that happens too often, but it does seem like it would be they're taking away some of your enjoyment of the game if you cannot play with all of your friends. Whereas for other people, yes, very much so. I'm sure they appreciate the fact that they're cutting down on those bigger stacks. We know how much harder games are when there's more players grouped together, even at lower ranks. So do you think it's like people have a right to be upset over any of that?
I don't think so. Because, again, how many people are at Grandmaster level? Not that many.
I don't know. I wish
you're
I
going
had
to be waiting 2 hours. You're going to be waiting 2 hours for a freaking match.
That's true.
And then you're just 6 stacking. Like, all the people at that level, you're probably going to be able to work with them. They're probably going to be able to go to team chat and be able to work with them. So I really don't see what the problem is.
Less of a problem in Grandmaster, I suppose, teamwork in general. I mean, that's how they got there, so
yeah.
Good point.
I think it's a non-issue.
Alrighty. One of the other and last bits of news from the actual game this week is that there was a earnings call that went through for Blizzard, and during the earnings call they did sort of hint towards something maybe a bit bigger coming in the Overwatch universe. So in the call, it says, over the rest of the year we'll continue to add new heroes and new maps and new experiences to the game. And then he went on to say, last quarter I talked about how we have a very large ambition for the Overwatch universe and how it can develop over time. He then revealed that going forward, the team would be looking into the balance of working on the existing game as well as focusing on the other work that they have. Now, this is other work within the Overwatch realm, so it leads to questions, really, doesn't it? It's like, I understand that they definitely have some work to do in terms of like balancing things out, and they just added this workshop mode, which was a huge kind of change, or update rather. They have to do their traditional new maps, new players, all that kind of stuff, but they are hinting that there's something that it's almost like they're breaking some of the team off to work on something different. Do you think that it's more likely to be like a variation of the Overwatch game like we've been told about before, like some kind of like RTS strategy type version of it? Or do you think it's more likely to be like an animated TV show or a movie? Or what do you think that's going to pan out to be?
I'm almost thinking, like, I don't know if it'll be like a game or something. I'm kind of leaning towards they're going to be developing the story more some way. I don't know if that's going to be through like a movie, through a show, through a web series, through something. That's what I think it is. I think it's like them moving to develop the universe rather than the game.
I think
because honestly, there's a lot of characters that we have no lore. Zenyatta. Let's find out more about Zenyatta, guys.
Yes, please. Yes.
Like, what the hell? But yeah, I think they're going to be moving towards making like more animated shorts, more lore, more stuff that we've been asking for.
It's amazing how far they floated along with minimal lore, if you think about it. I mean, the majority of stuff that we see is all like stuff they've already mentioned anyway. So like with this Doomfist in Singapore business we talked about earlier, like we knew that fight happened. We knew what happened during that fight. Now maybe they're going to expand on it a little bit more, but it's like there's nothing new there potentially. Maybe we learn one or two tidbits, but it's still kind of based on something we have known from comics
something
and
that
stuff.
We think we know. We actually don't have confirmation on it. It's probably what we think it is, but we don't know.
That's true.
I'm going to say that much about that.
I'd be open to it though. I mean, the thing is, like, they definitely have left a lot to the imagination in terms of certain aspects of the lore. Like we know there is this huge conflict between the Vishkar and like Lucio's rebel group, and we know there's something going on in that part of the world, and we have like the smallest nuggets of information about it, but there's yet to be some kind of like a full-on thing about it. Zenyatta is just dead in the water as far as lore is concerned. There's nothing at all. We just know that at some point Genji went to him and he made Genji feel better about things, and that's about it, really. That's all we got.
It's okay, Genji. You're part robot, but you're part human too. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
what
we know.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot going on, isn't there? I mean, it's such a vast universe when you think about all the different elements of it. Like, you can go through the 29 roster character list and go, okay, this person relates to this person because of this event, and this person relates to this person because of this event. But there's so much that we don't know about those events. So I mean, I know there's a lot of room there for like future archives events and things like that, but I think some expansion on the lesser known stuff, less of the main Overwatch hombres, like less of the Gorilla and the Tracer and the Reinhardt and stuff, more on the side characters that have seemingly no connection to anything when they first started in the game. I think I would like to see more of that. So hopefully we get some more of that. Alrighty, so moving on to the world of professional Overwatch, as in Overwatch League and contenders, there is some news in that area, quite a lot actually, which seems to be the case, actually. I feel like, weirdly enough, there is more news surrounding the professional Overwatch play as an esport than there is about the game itself on a very consistent basis, which, is saying a lot. So, All-Star lineup has been announced. Are you excited? You don't like All-Stars, do you?
I don't really care about All-Stars.
Do.
It's a distraction. That's what it is to me. It's a distraction. It's fun for a lot of people, but ultimately the game is meaningless. It's like, cool, these people are playing together on this team for one time. Does it actually mean anything as far as the title goes? Not really.
It's fan service is what it is. It's people saying, I wonder what would happen if you put Carpe and Jonak on the same team. That's what it is. It's people going,
but they're not fighting for a title, so it's not really the same thing.
It's more so just
they're
to
not
see.
Going to treat it the same way.
It's more so just to see like what would happen if we took the best players and we had them do crazy shit. Because the thing about All-Star games games, and this is true of
best players. That's vote for Pine, who literally has not played a map all season.
Hey, I haven't got that far yet. So, but it's not so much like they play to win. They play to show off. That's always been the way. Like if you've ever watched like a NBA All-Star game, that is when you're going to see the craziest dunks and alley-oops and everything, because they're the most dynamic, exciting players, and they don't really give a shit about whether they win or lose. They just want to look impressive while they do it. So to some extent, there is joy in that, knowing that you might have some crazy pop-offs going on. I can see you don't care. Some crazy pop-offs going on with the All-Star. That's kind of the thought process behind it. So anyway, let's go through the roster, whether you like it or not, sir. So the Atlantic Division, where they got voted in. And remember, these are fan voted, so, no one to blame but ourselves. We have Pine, who, as you pointed out, has not played pretty much the entire... Why? Okay, then. So if he hasn't played for the entire league, why did we vote for Pine?
He has a big fan base. That's pretty much it.
Big Daddy Pine.
No, I'm not knocking Pine at all. I don't think he's a bad player, but I seriously think for next All-Stars, they have to limit to, you have to have played this many maps to be voted for. That's my opinion.
That's not a bad suggestion. But Pine, renowned for his Widow play, when he used to just pop the fuck off for no reason, just taking off heads left, right, and center. And let's be honest, Widow play in Overwatch League is one of the most adored styles, right? I mean, DPS in general, but people love it when you pop off on Widow. The crowd goes wild, and it becomes just one of those kind of like special moments for everybody. Winnable. So Pine is there, Big Boss Pine, and then Carpe, also renowned for Widow play, amongst other heroes as well. Great McCree, a great Tracer. Jonak is going to be there as a support role, off-support role, and we all know what he's capable of. Ark is there, from probably the only Washington Justice member that's ever going to see the light of day on an all-star team at this point in time. But yeah, Ark is there. As main support, you have Poco as the off-tank support. Deserved, I might point out. Poco has been stellar this season when the rest of Philly, and you can see we're both wearing Philly shirts today. James is less so a Philly fan now. He's more leaning Boston. But
I'm wearing my own Philly jersey.
Yes, that's true.
Honest. I am supporting myself.
I have a Boombox shirt on, but you can't see it because it's on the back. But yeah, so Poco, well-deserved place there. And your boy, Fusions is there as the main tank. And I will say, of the Atlantic team, I voted for Carpe, Jonak, Poco, and Fusions. So I'm pretty happy that 4 of my picks ended up on the main squad there. I don't think I voted Neptuno. I can't remember who I voted for main healer. I don't know what I did there. I think I put Shore in there. I don't know why. Anyway, so that's your Atlantic Division. Pretty scary. And then you have Pacific Division, which is significantly odder, but it's kind of funny how this all breaks down. But there's 3 players from Chengdu in there, and then a couple. It's like basically just like Chengdu mashed with Dynasty plus a Gushui for fun. So Jinmu is there, Fleta is there, Yveltal is there, Rujehong is there, Gushui is there, and the god Ameng is there as well. And so that's going to be, at very least, an interesting mixture. So Gushui is a boss mode tank. Ameng is one of the most prolific hamster players in the world, which is probably, you'd love to see that on his gravestone. Prolific hamster player. Ryu Jae-hong is just sterling as a Zenyatta or anything really. Fleta, obviously, people have big fans of that. But Chengdu in general, Chengdu have continuously bucked the GOATS trend since day one. They're renowned for it, and their fans love them for it. And I think this shows. You have 3 players from Chengdu showing up on the All-Star list. So what do you think of the Pacific Division picks?
I think just Pacific Division is actually more exciting than Atlantic.
Yeah?
More exciting. I don't necessarily say better. I say more exciting.
More
it's
fun,
just because
do you think?
Chengdu are fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And everyone loves it. And they have Gushui and Spark, another team that's kind of nuts, not as nuts as like Chengdu, but Gushui is crazy. He's great. and then you have Fleta and Yu Hong. That's a pretty cool team. I don't know who's going to win the first map, because obviously these are the guys that have to start. They can't sub anyone in or out. It's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
It's true. So, yeah, as far as winners, I'm not sure where I lean on this, to be honest. It's because I honestly think individual play-wise, Atlantic have the heads up. But I feel like the Pacific could work better as a team.
Well, literally 3 of them are on the same team, and then 2 of them are also on the same team.
Yeah, yeah.
So they have, like, some of them will have synergy already.
But you do have Carpe and Poco.
Carpe and Poco,
and then,
but
yeah, Jonak and Pine
arguably Fusion aren't the best at synergy right now.
That's true. That is true. That's why they're losing. All right. So moving on from the All-Star game and into the return of most people's favorite event of professional Overwatch play outside of Overwatch League, which is, of course, the World Cup. So the Overwatch World Cup will return in 2019, and it does look a little bit different. One of the bigger changes that they made was that they decided that no more will they allow anyone under 18 to join the competition, which I think is a shit rule. I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there. I mean, let's be honest. Most of the excitement surrounding Overwatch World Cup was the fact that you could watch people younger than 18 pop off that you would never see in OWL. That's where we first saw Flower. That's where we first saw all these kind of younger players that were really kind of given a chance to shine in a realm where people were watching, and that's how they were getting picked up for teams. Now that's taken away, which is somewhat disappointing. Would you agree?
Yes, and although I don't think he was less than 18 at the time. Fusions, literally, like, no one had heard of Fusions before the World Cup. At least no one I knew had heard of Fusions before World Cup. I was watching their matches, and I literally said during their match versus the US, some of these guys have just signed their Overwatch League contracts. What happened to Fusions? He went from being an Academy 2-way to being the main tank, like, literally within months, because Gamsu all of a sudden left for Dragons. He just, like, showed up, and he's been doing well.
Oh yeah.
And like Boston aren't like at the top of the standings or anything, but they've done some good stuff.
I mean,
anyway.
He's undoubtedly one of their standout players, but on top of that, alongside him on the UK team, you have Kib that ended up on Charge, you have Cruz that ended up on Eternal, you have a lot of players that found a home based off of their performances in the World Cup, which I think was, said a lot. I mean, it was happy days for me because, I'm from England, so therefore it actually gets me a chance to support a UK team that is entirely comprised of UK players, which is all I've ever really wanted to do, but it's never been an option. So. And
then going back to the age thing, because I know I deviated from a bit, but on the same token, you're preventing these rising stars from potentially paving not necessarily a quick path, maybe a quick path actually to the league, like just shooting themselves into like noticeability.
Yeah.
And you've taken that away now. And I feel like World Cup is like one of the perfect places to do it, because World Cup, they don't have like the same advertisement going on. It's just at BlizzCon, like they have this kind of atmosphere where, I mean, it makes sense for less than 18 players to be there.
Yeah.
But they're taking that away now. And it's just...
Yeah, it does make me sad. One of the other changes that they made as well this year is that they're not going to do the weird thing they did last time around where they played certain, like, group matches in certain areas of the world, which was fun. Let's be honest, it was fun watching them kick out some of the casters to the middle of South Korea and be like, get on with it. But this time around, it is all going to be held in Anaheim. So the entire thing, it's going to be within 1 week of competitive celebration, which will be broadcast live to all platforms. So how it basically works for progression-wise is you have all the teams that have kind of access to the World Cup, and you have preliminaries. The top 5 ranked teams receive buys, and then open single elimination brackets after that. Once you get to the group stages, the top 3 teams per group advance. You have A and B seed, and the seeds, how they're going to play each other, seed 1 versus 2, 4 versus 3, 5 versus 1, and then open division 2 versus 4, and open 3 versus 5. Then you narrow down to the playoffs, which is the kind of the exciting part. But the progression system looks pretty decent. It is interesting they're doing all of it in Anaheim. I almost feel like that's a better thing, a better idea than kind of the world traveling weird stuff that was kind of going on. But yeah, so I mean, are you excited for this year? Or are you less excited because of the lack of young talent?
I'm probably be able to pay attention to it more because it's not going to be at some weird hour in the morning, and it's not going to be so far apart from the rest of the matches. Because like the group stages, it seemed like there'd be a group stage in one place, and like it would be at some weird hour, and then it would be like a week or two, and there's the next group stage. Like they had it so spread apart, but now you can just have this focus. Like this week is Overwatch World Cup week. I don't need to focus on anything else. And you can actually pay attention to it and keep up with it. Up, be like, okay, what happened 2 weeks ago in Group A? Blah blah blah. I think it's to have it compacted in one week. It might be a bit stressful on the players, but it's a tournament. They've done tournaments before.
Great. So moving along from the World Cup, we have this thing about Bud Light sponsoring the Dallas Arena. So this was a kind of an interesting, I don't want to call it a power move, but an interesting move in general by the Overwatch League. And I say this for a couple of reasons. Number one, their current kind of thing is Coca-Cola. So Bud Light, step up, step down, not sure, but it's definitely a different realm of, thirst quenching. But also, I believe that they have chastised their own players who have streamed in the past for drinking alcohol in the stream. And then they partner with Bud Light to make the Dallas Arena. So thoughts on is it a little hypocritical there, or?
I think it's a really... Okay, so there's two sides to this. One side of me, because I don't really like anybody, not just Overwatch, like really promoting alcohol so much. I think it's kind of weird. Like, oh, get drunk with your friends while you watch blah blah blah.
Play worse.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, kind of like it not quite in the same realm as like tobacco sponsorship in sports, which a lot of things that's banned in now. Like in Formula One, you don't see Ferrari being sponsored by Marlboro. I can't even pronounce it. Marlboro. It's like too many stuff.
It sounds like together. A Final Fantasy.
I know how it's spelled.
Marlboro.
There's actually a thing in Final Fantasy called a Marlboro, which is one letter away from Marlboro. But anyway, you don't see that in other sports for tobacco. There's still the alcohol sponsorships though. Yeah. So, arguably, like, it's just weird considering a lot of the Overwatch fandom isn't really old enough to drink in the US.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you're coming from as well, though, because there's a lot of folks that obviously are into Overwatch for different reasons, and we hope to bring them all to this podcast, but you have folks that are into it for the story, the lore, the cosplay, the characters, like that's why they're into it. Those folks, I'm not saying they don't like drinking beer, but that's not the forefront of their mind, I don't think, when it comes to their fandom for Overwatch. But then the esports fans, they can act like traditional sports fans. They do like to get drunk and
the other side of
eat
the coin.
Nachos and
That's the other side of the coin for me, is that this brings this kind of more in line with regular sports. Yeah. So I think there's two sides to this, and also it's probably big money. Oh yeah. So. Oh, yeah. There's two sides to this. It's kind of weird considering where it's coming from, but also it kind of normalizes it at the same time. Yeah. So I think if you start making these things more normal, you're going to stop having those people be like, oh, why are you fucking watching esports when they're watching people play football? How is that any different? They're just not doing something physical. Like, do you go out and play football? Like, at least I could go out and play Overwatch.
That's true.
Like right after watching a match. Are you going to go out and play football right after watching a match? Probably not. Most of them aren't.
Secretly, I just hope that the Bud Light sponsorship brings a team to St. Louis, which is where Anheuser-Busch lives. So I'm hoping that maybe there'll be some kind of a partnership there. By the way, a side note to this, I've seen people asking for teams in St. Louis in about 5 different, like, random posts that I've been looking at in Discords and stuff. And I'm wondering, like, where are all these St. Louis fans coming from? We run this show from St. Louis, Canada as well. But, St. Louis is where it's based. So come on in. Let's join the party. Let's make a team.
I seriously want them to have a team. And this is actually a name that Keegan came up with for a team. This is a side note, but he's like, yeah, they should have the team be St. Louis Spirit. I think that would be so fucking good just because of the spirit of St. Louis.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But that would be such a fucking good team name.
Yeah.
Like,
I like
Jesus
that.
Christ.
It's rare I agree with Keegan on things, but that's a good name. I like that. I would be down for that.
Keegan's stupid, but sometimes he says smart stuff. He's not actually stupid.
Thing is, though,
I told him the other day.
It would clash with the Spitfire in a way, because if you were going to go the plane route with it, but you could
shoot them the fuck down, bitch.
You could go the ghost route with it, like St. Louis Spirit, and have an actual ghost as the icon. That'd be kind of cool. Anyway, I did want to dwell on this for a minute. Not so much the Bud Light aspect of it. I just thought that was interesting. But what I did want to dwell on was the fact that we did just have the first homestand, which was in the Dallas Fuels Arena, and it was spectacular. Like, it was really well done. Aside from the giant power surge that knocked out half of the city at the beginning of it. Yeah, except for Sombra showing up. It was really well done. Like, it was really, really well put together. They treated it, and I think they had to do it, so I'm glad they did, but they treated it like the first of its kind. They treated it like a AAA sporting event. Like, the way they introduced, and in the first match that the Fuel played, the way they introduced the Fuel was kind of hilarious. I don't know if you watched it, but what they did was they had, like, rather than the usual Overwatch entrance where you have the whole team just kind of walks down, in single file, slapping hands, they introduced each player separately, like the start of an NBA match.
So like grand finals last year.
Yeah. So they did that. And they were like, and when they were all on stage, there was pyrotechnics, there was all kinds of stuff going on. Even the subs, like the whole team, not even just like the starting six. But then when Valiant came out, they didn't even come from the back. They snuck on from the stage and went directly to their monitors. Did not stop, do not pass go, do not class $200. They were just right in their seats ready to rock and roll. But I thought that the whole event was so well done. The fans made the difference. They made a difference in that, because when you're watching it in Los Angeles, and no knock on Los Angeles, those fans do get rowdy as well, there's just not enough of them to make the type of noise they were making in that arena. To hear, I don't know how many people were there, but thousands upon thousands of people were there. To hear those people going absolutely tits when Note dropped like a big bomb on top of someone, like, it was incredible. And it was one of the most exciting live Overwatch things that I've ever watched. And I was kind of thinking, is it going to be like that for every single team, every single venue? Or is it just because it was the first one, or just because it was the Fuel and Jane has that following, or like, what was it that made this one special? Do you think it's going to be like that for everyone?
I think it is, because for the people who live in LA, they're going to like all the matches and they're like screaming so loud for their team. Like, you see, everyone's going to like say like that one Houston fan, but Reba's always going crazy for Houston, and you always recognize her, and she'll go to like anything Houston. So there are fans, like, if they're in the area and they support their team, they'll go out. It's just that LA is LA territory, and also the Blizzard Arena used to be like the set for one of those late night shows. It's not very big.
It doesn't look very big.
It's not a very big place. So you can't fit that many fans in there. But when you get to these local areas, they're going to be able to fill like a good auditorium size, maybe not like huge stadium size match every time, but they're going to be able to fill like an auditorium full of people, like a lecture theater size, big lecture theater, a really large lecture theater size.
I mean, the Fuel game, I can't remember what the final head count was, but they pretty much sold that sucker out. Like, there was a lot of seats taken in that
2/3 of a hockey stadium.
Yeah, it was a big place. And on top of that, it wasn't just necessarily the typical like esport fan where people were showing up with their jerseys and stuff. There were cosplayers, there were lots of cool little things in there, just part of like the overall Overwatch universe, all kind of joining together to just enjoy that special moment of getting this big game that got played outside of Anaheim. So it's exciting. It's really exciting. Did you watch much of it, or?
I actually didn't watch much of it at all.
Oh,
I actually have not been watching that much of Overwatch League recently. I've been keeping up with the news of it, but if I don't watch it live, I don't feel like watching it. I'm this weird person. But
I watch it at work a lot, like in between. I
actually will
stuff,
follow the game as it's happening on social media, though. I was doing that for Boston yesterday. or Friday. It was Friday. They play again today. But I follow it on social media. I don't always watch because I'm usually playing Overwatch when it's happening.
There's a new homestand coming up as well, and that's going to be in Atlanta this time around, which is one of the closer venues to me. I still don't think I'm going to be able to make the trip, though. But that's exciting. So I guess we'll get to see, whether the same thing happens there. I mean, Atlanta fans are equally as nuts
There's
as
a lot
Fuel fans.
of Atlanta fans.
It'd be cool.
Still, even after DeFran left, there's still a lot of Atlanta fans.
I wonder if they can get DeFran to go to that event. It's just kind of like a
they probably will be. He still streams
fan up thing, yeah. And of course, I do plan on making a spiritual migration to the Philly arena once that is finished as well. I'm very excited for that. But
I definitely want to go to that arena,
oh,
even if I don't like the team as much anymore. I definitely want to go to that arena. I definitely want to go to Toronto.
Cool
I definitely want to go to Boston. I want to go to all the places.
Let's make a America-Canada tour. Well, I guess they're going to be all over. We could go to Paris. Maybe go to the Paris arena. That'd be fun. Alrighty, so
that's expensive.
Yeah, a little bit more pricey. Is it Quatermain? How do you pronounce this dude's name?
I think it's Quatermain.
Quatermain?
It's like quarter, except without the first R.
Quatermain?
I actually don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Anyway, all teammates of some of the London Spitfire will be joining them. Quatermain or Quatermain or whoever the fuck you pronounce it will be joining the London Spitfire. He has been teammates with a lot of their, their current roster, and also just generally all round known for being a bit of a boss when it comes to Overwatch. So that's some exciting news for Spitfire fans. And then sad news for Boston fans, or at least the Academy Boston fans. IO Stux will be leaving Boston Academy. They have not said kind of where he's going next. My guess is coaching. But IO Stux is a solid guy. He shows up on Reddit a lot in the competitive forum. Always has nice things to say. Always very helpful. So I do respect that gentleman quite a lot. So I'll be sad to see him go. But that is sort of something else that occurred there in the Contenders era. And then lastly, for our professional news this week, Atlanta. Speaking of Atlanta, beat NYXL again. Twice now. What
in the same stage.
Fuck, universe? Like, so you have a team that's been struggling really badly since they lost to Fran.
They were the first team to lose to Valiant all season.
And then they just owned NYXL twice. The first time
this
people
one was
thought
closer,
it was
actually. It went to map 5.
Right. Still though, like that's just it's nuts.
What is it? So let's recap. This stage, they lose to Valiant. They're the first team all season to lose to Valiant. Not knocking Valiant. Valiant's a great team, but they were the first. Just like Boston was the first to lose to Dragons. Everyone's forgotten about that by now. Because Dragons have won a few more. But it's still noteworthy. Then they win against NYXL. The next match, they lose to Charge. And then they win against NYXL again.
What do you think it is?
They're
about...
3-7. They're 3-7 for this stage. I'm pretty sure. Let me just check that. They're 3-7 for the stage. 2 of their wins were against NYXL.
So what's happening there? Let's theorize for a minute before we move into the rest of the show. So NYXL, rigid team, right? They don't like to bend the rules too much. They tend to be very kind of, we're going to play this, and that's exactly what we're going to do for the rest of this game. They don't like to differ too much from what they have, and they play very defensively. They're the type of team that plays and waits for a mistake to happen. Then they pounce. But they're not that aggressive. They're surprisingly not that aggressive. They're very sort of defensive. They just wait for someone to fuck up, and then do you think it's that Atlanta isn't giving them the satisfaction of fucking up? Or
once again, like I said last time, NYXL is good for what they plan for. You can't plan for rain. You can't.
That's true.
They're just nuts. They're crazy. It's just like you can't plan for Hunters to a degree.
I was going to say, have they ever played Hunters? I don't
know if they've played Hunters.
I would love to see NYXL versus Hunters.
But NYXL, their players are really solid, but they typically are only good for what they plan for.
Right.
Unlike Titans, who just are crazy no matter what.
That's true. No matter what the fucking
that's what
meta
separates.
Is, they're nuts.
That separates Titans from NYXL, in my opinion. I actually would put Shock above NYXL right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would agree too. It's a very bizarre place to be, but it's interesting. I can't say I dislike it. I'm not like the guy that I know there's a lot of people that hate on NYXL because they win all the time, so it's like they love it when they lose. I'm not that type of guy, but I do feel like if you're not bending and manipulating yourself to your enemy, then you kind of deserve it. You know what I mean?
Like NYXL, literally just from Atlanta, they are placed 1, 2, 3, 4. They're 5th in the stage standings. They are below Gladiators. They are below London. They are below San Francisco Shock, who might actually get away with a perfect stage without losing a single map.
Crush Philly.
Yes, they've crushed everyone. They've literally 4-0'd everybody this stage, and they might 4-0 today again. And then they're below Vancouver as well.
Nice.
So they're literally just from their 2 losses against Atlanta, and that's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
Do you think they need to change something, or do you think they just need to change something when they play Atlanta?
I think they need to become more flexible. They need to stop sticking to this is our plan, because as soon, and we saw it last year during grand finals, or not grand finals, but the playoffs leading up to grand finals. As soon I knew in that last map against Fusion, when they switched to goats, I knew we won the match. Like, I knew, because they're like, this is not what they planned for.
It's like they don't have a plan B.
You can tell when NYXL are thrown off their game, because they don't know what to do. As soon as they're thrown off their game, it's like they can't do anything anymore.
Solid point.
The players are really good mechanically. They're really good at their planned strategies. They're not good at what they don't plan for.
Good point.
I think that's a coaching thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, we've been talking about the Philly problem for a while now, but I mean, as Philly fans, I guess we do have to discuss it a little bit, but I think that our current situation is very similar in the fact that I don't necessarily think our coaches are bad, but what I do think is that they're having difficulty bringing together 6 highly skilled individual players as a team. Every single one of the Philly players is excellent, but they cannot work as a team right now, and that's a coaching issue.
This is my personal hot take. I think most of the players hate each other right now.
Think so?
I don't think they're even friends, a lot of them. Like, there might be a couple little friendships here and there. People can tolerate each other. They're not, like... I don't think they're all happy with each other right now.
Do you think it's because they have to, like, live in that house and work hard every day and then still come home and lose?
I think it's partially that. I think it's also partially... Like, supposedly, Carpe doesn't want to play with Fraggy, either because he doesn't like Fraggy or he just doesn't want to play with Sato. And that's... Like, having someone like that on your team who's just kind of somewhat directing
toxic
the way things go, that can't be good. And
when it's your star player, what do? It's a catch-22, you know.
It's just
honestly,
look at what Dynasty did with Fissure. They've literally just forgotten Fissure existed, and they've been doing so much better.
I would not be mad.
Fusion.
I say this with pain in my heart, but I would not be mad if they kicked Carpe out. Because everyone said we wouldn't be shit without Carpe, but if Carpe is holding the team back from being their full potential, I don't give a shit if he's the best Widow in the world. They need to get rid of him and get someone else in.
I don't even have a problem with Carpe. Like, I think outside of the game, he's fine. I think just in the game, he has this mentality that is difficult to work with. I think he's another player like Fissure, who, again, Fissure, really good mechanically, but every team he's been with so far have either benched him or just, like, he's been traded to someone else.
Yeah, just does not play well with others. Yeah.
So I think that's the situation going on with Fusion. I think that I don't think Carpe is the only problem. I think that Sato, A, they're not supporting Sato enough. B, Sato's also a bit reckless. There's, like, a few things. There's a lot of things going on wrong for Fusion right now.
Yeah, I agree. Well, as long as the boy Poco and Boombox hang around, I really don't care what else shuffles around them, to be honest with you. Those two, I think, are the backbone of the team, and I think EQO as well is a solid player in a lot of different roles. He's a star DPS in his own right. So
I actually like EQO as well.
Yeah.
I think EQO is one of the good guys. Again, I don't have a problem with Carpe outside of the game. I think he seems pretty nice actually outside of the game, but he seems to be a bit of a diva when it comes to actually playing.
More of a diva than Poco. All right. So let's move on to personal focus for this week. So that's your breakdown for the professional world of Overwatch esports. And by the way, again, if you are tuning in for the first time, or if you is for multiple times, let us know like which sort of side of the fence you lean on as far as your Overwatch fandom. Are you more a fan of the game, or are you more a fan of the professional version of the game? Because I think there's definitely this weird division in the community at this point, especially with how popular it's become. I read something the other day, I think it was at a CSGO tournament that was being held next to an Overwatch League game, and the CSGO people were saying like Overwatch sucks or something like that because they could hear the bleed over from the Overwatch arena because of how crazy it was in that arena, and it was ruining the CSGO tournament. So I know that like pretty much every other subsect of esports hates Overwatch. Like League hated Overwatch because it stole a bunch of their players. CSGO hates Overwatch. Like all those guys hate Overwatch. So it's interesting to see it kind of creep up to be one of the top esports, and it's I think also surprising for a lot of the fans as well who like it because it's basically like a weird Disney superhero story, which is, fine and enjoyable, and that's what makes it so fun. But anyway, personal focus, you wrote it this week.
Yes, I did.
I left you the reins for filling this in, and you did well. So you have chosen as your personal focus favorite game type, regular and or arcade, and least favorite game type, regular and or arcade. So since you wrote it, go first.
Okay, so I can't English all of a sudden. Regular game modes. My favorite has to be Control. Just because... And it's hard to pick between Control and Payload, except for Junkertown. Fuck that place.
Agreed.
But Control, I really like it because it has both the attack and defense aspect, and it's really showing... It really tests your ability to team fight and knowing when to push the enemy and when to kind of hold back. It's this huge thing about balance. It's all about balance, that game mode, and it's really brawly. It's really kind of off the wall crazy at times, and it makes it my favorite game type. At one point, it was actually my least favorite. I actually put it below 2 CP at one point. It's a scary thing. But then after I said that, I started like looking at Control. I'm like, how can I be better at Control? Maybe I have to do that for 2 CP as well. But I started getting better at it. I started really enjoying it more and understanding the mechanics more. I think also Overwatch League kind of helped with that.
What's your favorite Control map?
Control map? Ooh. I think it's... Busan's pretty up there for me, but I think I'm still going to have to go with Lijiang Tower.
I agree. That was my favorite is Lijiang. I think it's every time that comes up, I think everyone smiles a little bit. It's just a fun level with fun maps all around. So
and it's one of those things where you can literally be holding the team at spawn one moment, and the next moment you're being held at spawn.
Yeah,
like it's such a turnaround.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what about your favorite arcade mode?
Favorite arcade mode? I'm gonna say Petra Deathmatch.
Oh, that's boring.
I like Petra because it's literally the only place, and this isn't on PC. I haven't tried it on PC yet, but this is literally the only place where I feel like I can be good at Widow. I actually, for a while, I was getting like crazy headshots on Petra. I'm like, I look like a fucking pro right now. How is this not transferred to the actual game? And it's because it's a different dynamic. But I was doing some crazy shit on Petra Deathmatch. I really like Petra. It's just I like Petra Deathmatch. That's what I'm gonna say. Right. Free for all deathmatch. I should point out it's free for all.
So I guess I'll do my favorites before we move over. So favorite game type, it's a toss up. I really like Escort. I do really like Escort, but I almost prefer Hybrid because it makes it a little bit more interesting to me. So with Escort, like let's say like one of the better known Escort maps like Gibraltar, right? Or Rialta, one of those types of guys. you start on the payload and you have to start pushing it, and it's entirely momentum based. So if you can win a pretty nice team fight at the beginning, that's, you know, you're gonna be hard pressed to get stuck later on in that thing. Maybe usually towards third point, the defensive team has a better, you know, area to make a stand due to the surrounding map geometry. But with hybrid, for a start, you feel like you earn it. You know what I mean? It kind of feels like that first try and take of the payload, it feels so much like more satisfactory to get a payload from a control point rather than just having it outside your door for me. So like Eichenwald, Numbani, like the whole idea of like, here's the defensive hold, how do we break it? It's so much pressure to break that first point. Once you get on the payload, it's almost like, it's kind of like that's your victory in itself, just getting to the fucking payload and getting it unlocked. But then making it all the way to the end as well, like knowing that kind of the hard part is over, but you still have to like swarp it out. I don't know, I like it a lot. I think I love payload maps in general because I just think that it takes people away from the Call of Duty of Overwatch, and it makes it like objective based, like get your ass on this payload right now, or, you know, at least a couple of you push ahead. And there's so much strategy to a payload map, but I think that there's even more strategy to a hybrid map, because first you have to break the control point before you can then move on to the payload side of it. So it's a nice mixture of kind of different styles, which is what I like about those maps the most.
I think it's noteworthy to point out that while control might be my favorite map type, King's Row is my favorite map in the game.
One of the best.
And what's that? A hybrid.
It's a hybrid. Yeah. So it's like, it's just, it's nice. I don't know. There's something about it. There's like several levels of satisfaction. The first one of breaking to get the payload. The second one of pushing it to that second point, which is usually pretty fucking far away if it's Eichenwald or King's Row. And then that last, like, you know, dig your heels in, push to the end of the map. I think it's just it's always exciting on both sides. I even like defending on hybrid, which is, I never like defending, but on hybrid maps, I feel like that last stand especially, it's so exhausting, but if you can pull it off, it's so worth it. So big fan of hybrid. As far as arcade, I'm just going to go ahead and say Mystery Heroes. It's always been one of my favorites. I don't give a shit about the compositions ending up entirely ridiculously against our favor. I actually enjoy that. I like trying to work with what you have to overcome ridiculous odds. That's one of my favorite things about Mystery Heroes. So if the enemy team has 3 Bastions and 2 Orissas and 1 Mercy that just reses everything all the time forever, then, you know, and you're stuck with, I don't know, a couple Genjis and whatever else. It's fun to be like, okay, so what's our prime directive here? They have 3 Bastions, a bunch of shields. Do we bother with shield break, or we try and get rid of one of the Bastions? Like, what's our focus? I like the strategy of it. It is like a game of chess in terms of like, what is the most pertinent thing to take out right now? Like, if we take out the Mercy first, then that means they're not going to be able to res this Bastion. So maybe let's focus her first, because she's, you know, far more easy to kill anyway. So, oh, look, we have a Widow. Let's have Widow try and flank the Mercy, take her out first, and then get a Genji behind a Bastion and flick and kill him and see what happens. So I'm a fan of Mystery Heroes, and also for its learning purposes, where if you are relatively new to the game, or you just feel like trying out some other characters, Mystery Heroes has you covered as far as like forcing you to play people that you wouldn't normally play. I would never know how much I enjoyed playing Zarya unless I ended up having to play her in Mystery Heroes. Same goes for Doomfist. I'm a terrible Doomfist, but when I'm forced to do him in Mystery Heroes, I have fun. I try and do the Doomfist style of play, and occasionally it works out, and I feel awesome. So I'm a big fan of Mystery Heroes for that. So that's my favorite arcade mode. I know you hate it. Shut up. Least favorite game type. Anything. Least favorite game type. Go.
So regular one, I'd have to say 2CP, just because. Okay, where I am,
for those of you that
SR
don't know, 2CP, that's Assault is the official name for it. Yeah.
2CP at my level of SR usually is you get steamrolled, and then you steamroll. And it's literally like there's no way for it. It's almost impossible for it to be just you defend. It's just it's so hard to defend it, or you get defended like full held, just at the first point. It feels so one-sided a lot of the time, or it's literally who can attack it better or who defends worse. Just That sounds stupid when I say it out loud, but it's just so... It feels unfair. And it feels just broken, and it's just so steamrolly.
Okay. I
One
would
way
agree.
or the other, it's steamrolly.
I'm going to jump in here because I would actually agree. That's my least favorite as well. I'm going to throw that out there and get that part over with. You know why, though? It's because people give up way too easy.
That too.
It's so frustrating. Like, it's like people expect to full hold the first point, and if they don't full hold the first point, they give up on the second point, which is the easier one to hold. You almost have to come into it with the expectation that it's unlikely that we're going to hold this first point. We can hold it for as long as humanly possible, but at some point, they're going to have 6 ultimates, and we probably are going to die. That's okay, because as long as we can run as much time down the clock as possible, we will have a far superior position with the spawn advantage on the second point. But there's so many players that get so hardcore tilted from the first point. Like, they feel like if they don't full hold it, they've lost. And that just leads to, like, terrible BM and toxicity, and that's my least favorite part about those maps in particular.
See, I'm not one of those people for sure. I definitely, like, if I nearly full hold, I'm like already thinking, okay, we can hold them on the second point. That's what I think.
Yeah.
If we drove them down this much, we can hold them on the second point. And I've actually recently, my 2CP defenses have been getting better, I've noticed, just because I've changed my mindset. But you can't control the rest of your team's mindset.
Isn't that just the bane of Overwatch? And then
Yes.
what's your least favorite arcade mode?
My least favorite arcade mode is Mystery Heroes. Surprise, surprise. And I'm saying this because it's really good. I will give it, it's really good if you're new to the game for figuring out like characters and stuff. But for some reason with my matchmaking, it doesn't matter. You can't, like, if the enemy team gets a good comp and your comp is bad, you're never going to break it. You're just going to get steamrolled. Like, because people are too mechanically good at my matchmaking level, at least on console, and you just never are going to be able to break it. And it just feels like I'm like bashing my head against a wall for what?
I'm going to go ahead and say my least favorite arcade mode is Capture the Flag. I fucking hate Capture the Flag. I've never enjoyed it. I think I played it once, and I don't get it. I don't think it fits that much in a game like Overwatch, with, like, especially the way they, like, take away some abilities and stuff. It's just weird. I just don't...
You just have to figure out the Capture the Flag metas.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know. I don't enjoy it. Like, I don't enjoy defending. I don't enjoy attacking. The teamwork is basically non-existent. There's just a bunch of tracers and Lucios everywhere. It's just
so you
weird.
haven't played it correctly, okay? I'm
Probably
going to
not.
jump in here.
Probably not.
Because I played with people, and we actually figured out a strategy. We had this meta where it was like D.Va. You had to have a D.Va. You had to have a Symmetra, a Mercy, and a Lucio. And you could do this crazy shit. Like, you could teleport in, the D.Va grabs the flag because the D.Va has more health, and you just put all your healing into the D.Va. And I forget how it was, but it was really cool. And usually the enemy team had a Symmetra too. You just, like, build energy off their barrier, build energy off any barriers, and just out-Symmetra them. And it was it worked so well. It was such a good strategy, and it was so fun when we got together and actually are trying to figure out, okay, so how do we break them? And how do we stop them once they get our flag? We don't give up. We're like, we need to get the flag back. Let's go after them. And it was cool. It's just this dynamic, like, we have to go from figuring out how to break their defenses to figuring out how to get our flag back. I like it.
You're a fan?
Yes.
Okay. I will say, honorable mention, and the only reason I didn't choose this as my favorite arcade mode is because it's not there all year round, is, of course, Lucio Ball.
I actually forgot about Lucio Ball.
King of arcade modes. It is
that
always
would be my
the best.
favorite.
Yeah, that's
if
hands
it was
down.
a regular. If it was a one that showed up all the time, it would be my favorite.
Yeah, competitive Lucio Ball is the shit, and it's the only thing I've ever been diamond in, so I'm pretty happy about that.
I've been fucking masters in Lucio Ball. Yep. I'm not even joking.
It's
I'm
great.
like, why can't this be my real SR?
I fucking love that game. It's so fun. It's like Rocket League with Lucio, and it's the best. Alrighty, so let's move on to our hero this week, our hero focus, if you will. And we are going to be focusing on a gentleman from the Shimada clan. Not the ninja, rather the archer, Hanzo. So, let's talk about Hanzo a little bit. So before I go into, like, backstory and all that kind of shit, let's look at his kit. So Hanzo's kit has changed, of course, over the years, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little later. Scatter. I love doing fucking Hanzo voices. I'm excited for the voice part. So they did add, when they did the most recent change to Hanzo, they did give him a passive ability, and that passive ability is wall climb. Well, actually, no, they gave him a jump, but his passive ability, sorry, is wall climb, which means that he does have somewhat of a verticality. He can get up to high places. He can jump away from high places. He can get up and fire an arrow and fuck off. He's pretty handy as far as mobility is concerned, more so than he used to be, and that's his passive. He can do 7.
Well, he always had wall climb.
Yeah, I know. I was confusing it with the jump. I'm sorry. 7.15 meters per second vertical movement speed and up to 4 meter vertical climb. So not quite as prolific as his brother with the double jumping, but still pretty handy to get escapes. And there's not that many higher walls than that anyway in Overwatch. The other ability that they did add was the jump. So that was the one I confused that with, which is on a very small cooldown. It's about 3 seconds, is it? Something like that? It's not too bad.
It's something very small. Yeah.
It's very small. But it's kind of a double jump situation where he jumps up and then he can dart in one direction, forward, backwards, left, right, wherever.
It's kind of like Blink, if you think about it.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. Smaller distance than Blink, perhaps, but definitely like good for dodging and, of course, for escaping from your high up perches very quickly, or just darting behind cover and things like that. Really useful.
Or getting around corners. Like if you know someone's hiding behind a corner and you just kind of dart around, you can headshot them and they'll be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, and and he does fire logs with that sucker. The the hitbox for Hanzo is insane. All right, so let's talk about his actual arrows in general. Of course, he does fire traditional arrows, which are his main and only really weapon, aside from a kick here and there or punch or whatever he does for melee. But the storm bow is the replacement for the scatter arrow, which we'll get into later. The storm bow is an arcing projectile type, which means that you have to lead your shots, for those unfamiliar with the term projectile. The damage is 29.4 up to 125, depending on your charge. The spread angle is pinpoint. The movement speed is minus 30%. Projectile speed, 26 milliseconds up to 100 milliseconds. Rate of fire, 0.7 seconds charging, 0.4 to 0.6 shot recovery, depending on charge, infinite ammo with his storm bow, and the headshots, of course, are there as well. So that's his main weapon, the storm bow. Do you feel like it's gotten better since the iteration? Since
them adding storm bow?
Not storm arrow, just the bow in
storm
general.
Arrow.
Do you think it's got better in general?
Yes.
I feel like it has.
The travel time was kind of stupid before. It just felt kind of useless. But now it's pretty good. It's so fast it's almost hit scan, but I don't really have a problem with that.
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to have a problem with it, but you can still, if you see him drawing his arrow back, you have enough time to figure out, oh, I should move.
Fun side note as well with the storm bow. The damage is inflicted depending on how far back the arrow is pulled. You can do flicks or you can hold it back all the way. But also, and I don't know how much truth there is in this, I've been told it's true, that when you have an arrow pulled back, you're actually sort of covering a portion of Hanzo's face, which makes it harder to headshot him, which I did not know for a while, but apparently that's a thing. So, good to know. So the storm arrows, let's go into those. Those are what I was originally intending. I'm all over the place today. I do apologize. So the storm bow fires the storm arrows. The storm arrows are what replace scatter, and they are arcing projectile, 70 per shot, pinpoint spread angle, 100 meters per second, one shot every 0.3 seconds. 6 of them are in your quiver, and your duration is 5 seconds or until ammo is depleted. Cooldown 10 seconds, and yes, they can headshot. Storm arrows, were they a good replacement for scatter?
Yes, I believe so, because A, you have to aim more. You don't just aim straight at the ground at somebody's feet and it kills them. B, it's really good for shield break.
True.
It actually makes Hanzo, even though he's a sniper, you can actually get away with double sniper sometimes just because he can break shields with that storm arrow. And also, if people are just low and they're not behind a shield, you can just storm arrow into them, and you'll get a bunch of them low. or you'll burn down a tank. Like, it gives him a bit more, like, before it's just like free kill. Now it's a bit more, I can be useful with this damage more than just getting free kill.
One of the more interesting times that I've seen him utilized, especially in League right now, is against bunker comps. So when you have the Batiste Bastion Orisa bunker comp, not only, like you point out, is the Storm Arrow particularly good for draining that shield down, and also Batiste's little lamp, but also a lot of people are utilizing Hanzo because the dragons force people to move. And when everyone is bunkered in one place, they got to move real fast, otherwise they're going to get just wrecked by those dragons. So I do think that against shield comps, he is particularly strong, more so anyway than like a Widowmaker or what have you, as far as the snipers go. So, you're all right?
Did you ask a question?
No, I was just commenting. Are you okay?
Okay, sorry. I was fixing my connections, kind of getting screwy here.
Oh, it's okay.
So.
Looks good for me so far. Alrighty, the other ability that he has with his arrows to make him a little extra special is the Sonic Arrow. So the Sonic Arrow, again, arcing projectile, the damage, projectile speed, rate of fire, all the same as a regular bow. It does have an area effect of currently 9-meter radius and a cooldown of 12 seconds, duration of 6 seconds, and it is basically sort of a device to show the enemy to you within a 9-meter radius. Most prominently used in spawn doors everywhere. You'll have a Hanzo that fires one at the spawn door, which gives your team instant information as to what is about to come out of that spawn door and that you're going to be fighting. But the Sonic Arrow can be useful many other ways, including spotting a naughty Sombra trying to sneak up on you. But also, it does hang around, which is an interesting thing, which I learned from some better Hanzo players than I, mostly from our guide that we put down. They said that if you put a Storm Arrow into the rough head area of a Reinhardt or a Mei that's cryoed, it sort of maintains momentum. So like once the shield drops or the cryo ends, it still headshots them, which I thought was really weird. So that's kind of an, interesting side note, is that it sticks to things and then it continues momentum, which is an interesting thought. And then, basically, it's kind of like a smaller version of Widow's Ultimate. So how do we feel about Sonic Arrow?
Again, it gives you knowledge, and knowledge is power in this game. So, and also, it still does damage. It's still like a regular arrow from every other perspective. So it gives you intel, and you might pick someone's face right off their body. Yeah. So
I enjoy it. I use it more than I thought I would. Like, it's not just like I don't just use it like at spawn and stuff and to look for Sombras. Like, I will fire it into a big group of enemies just so I can track their movements for a couple extra seconds, Yes,
and it's also good for setting up Dragon Strike.
That's true. That's very true. Speaking of
people
which,
are behind a wall.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Hanzo's ultimate is Dragon Strike, which is a linear projectile. It's an arrow, so that does 125 damage, even if shot with a Storm Arrow. Now the dragons follow the arrow, so essentially the arrow goes forward and it splits into 2 very large dragons that do 150 damage per second per dragon, up to 993.6 damage against a stationary target. It has an infinite travel distance, as in it will come to your spawn door and through it. The area of effect is about 4-meter radius. Rate of fire, 1.5 seconds charging. Casting time, 1.4 seconds initial animation, 0.6 seconds for the arrow. And the arrow itself can headshot somebody. The dragons obviously cannot. And that's his ultimate, which is 2 big-ass dragons that just kind of intertwine through the air towards you. Very pretty to look at. I've always enjoyed watching that ultimate. I think it's very well designed. Hanzo does passively generate 1% ult charge every 3 seconds. It does not damage deployed objects like turrets. If shot directly and the target is still, the damage will last for 3.3 seconds. The hitbox is actually both dragons, meaning the ultimate deals less damage at the edges and combined at the center. So there you go. And D.Va can eat it, which is worth pointing out. Very, very hard to eat it, but very impressive when you do pull it. I've seen you eat many an arrow before.
Well, it's because you just have to watch, and this is, I guess, a tip for D.Va players against Hanzo, which is a weird side note. But if you see him just spin around, Matrix. Yeah. Just Matrix. Or if you just hear, Ryuga, just Matrix, like towards where you think it is, because you might actually get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So are we, I think storm arrows are interesting. Not storm arrows, sorry. The dragons are interesting because they're kind of twofold, right? So they have the damage that they put out, which is, good, but they're also really easy to dodge. Like, you kind of have to be fucked in your positioning to die to a dragon. But at the same time, they also have a secondary sort of purpose, which is to divide a team. So obviously, as is known in the land of Overwatch, the more players you have versus the other team, the more likely you are to win a team fight. So if you can block off certain members of the team, healers, for example, using the dragons, then you are taking maybe a 5-on-3 as opposed to trying to take on the whole team. And it's kind of utilized a lot more for that, and also in conjunction with ultimates. So, for example, good old Grav Drag is one of my favorite combinations in the game. When the whole team, or the majority of the team, is caught in a Graviton Surge, Hanzo fires an arrow into that sucker, and nobody is getting out of that fucker alive. They are all going down because they cannot escape. Same for Holt, actually. Orisa and Hanzo work really well together. If those dragons are going out and you throw out a Holt orb, you can pull them all into the center. Like it is, they're going to die before they can get back out again. So good in combination with abilities and ults.
Also fairly good if the shatter is good. It can be good with our shatter.
Good cleanup, yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, so Hanzo, little on the light side as far as his actual kit, I suppose. If you think about it, I mean, he really just has, like, the arrow is just his normal fire. He does have the ability to pump out some arrows fast, and he has the sonic arrow. Outside of that, that's it, really. I mean, there's nothing else going on except for the ultimate. So, realistically, to play Hanzo well, you do need to have your mechanics somewhat down. I think it is a forgiving hitbox for Hanzo players. I feel like they're not just firing tiny little arrows. There's plenty of times that you'll see yourself die to a Hanzo, and the arrow is like over here somewhere. It's just like, you're like, really? Was that a shot though? Yeah, he's firing little tree trunks at you. But yeah, I think that is something to bear in mind if you do plan on picking up Hanzo and playing him. The mechanics are the best part of it. So lead your shots, aim for heads, utilize Storm Arrow for shield breakage, utilize Sonic Arrow for information, and utilize dragons however you see fit, I think. I
would also argue that even though his mechanics are key, but that's true for like any DPS, he's actually one of the easier DPS if you learn to use his abilities more like strategically. He's actually one of the good DPS for people who don't necessarily play DPS as much to pick up. And I find that just because I find his aiming, even though you have to account for projectile speed, I find it's not all that difficult.
I just kind of aim around shoulder.
It feels natural to me.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
I think it's easy to grind too. Like, it feels because you're essentially taking a straight shot towards like sort of the shoulder area of someone if you're aiming for their head, compared to like a Widow that has to do flick shots and things like that. There's sort of less that you have to master, if you will. There's no jumping up 50 feet in the air and trying to land a headshot with Hanzo. It's all kind of ground based and occasionally a jump here and there, you know. But yeah, I think he's an interesting character, and I think he's also definitely in a better place than he has been previously. He was kind of known as the throw pick for a really long time. If you remember, back when you were in the spawn room watching people pick characters, there was a time when someone picked Hanzo, you were like, "Oh, we're throwing, are we?" But now it's lesser so. When I see a Hanzo, I'm like, "Oh, cool."
Now
a
it's
Hanzo.
when I see Genji.
Yeah, now when I see Genji, I'm like, "Oh, we're throwing, are we?" But yeah, he's definitely more of an honorable pick, shall we say?
I'm pretty sure that's when I started playing Hanzo. Is I just saw people like inslock Hanzo and be bad. I'm like, fuck it, I need to steal this character from these guys.
Alrighty, so let's learn a little bit about Hanzo. So, mastering his skills as a bowman and an assassin, Hanzo Shimada strives to prove himself as a warrior without peer. He is likewise skilled with the sword, but has sworn off using such a weapon. He considers crossbows to be toys for children, and believes that compassion has no place in battle. He has demonstrated a cynical view of the nature of the world. The Shimada family was established centuries ago, a clan of assassins whose power grew over the years, enabling them to build a vast criminal empire out of Hanamura that profited from lucrative trade in arms and illegal substances. Ooh, he was a drug dealer. As the eldest son of Shoshiro Shimada, the family's head, Hanzo was bound by duty to succeed his father and rule the Shimada Empire. From a young age, he was trained for that responsibility, displaying a natural aptitude for leadership and possessing an innate understanding of strategy and tactics. He also excelled in more practical areas. He was a prodigy in martial arts, swords play, and bowmanship. Upon the death of his father, the clan elders instructed Hanzo to straighten out his wayward younger brother Genji so that he too might help rule the Shimada Empire. When his brother refused, Hanzo was forced to kill him. Unbeknownst to Hanzo, however, Genji narrowly survived the attempt with the help of Overwatch. This act broke Hanzo's heart and drove him to reject his father's legacy, ultimately leading him to abandon the clan and all that he had worked so hard to attain. Furthermore, he swore to never again wield a sword and would forevermore rely on his skills with the bow. Seeing his abandonment as betrayal, the clan declared Hanzo an enemy and assassins were sent time and again to kill him. That was 10 years ago. Now Hanzo travels the world, perfecting his skills as a warrior, attempting to restore his honor and put the ghosts of his past to rest, honing his murderous skills all the while. At some point he visited Numbani, but did not find the city to his liking. So, yeah, that's the kind of the brief overview of Hanzo. So he was led to be basically like head of the Yakuza, if you will, in Overwatch world, and ended up having to kill his little brother, or at least he thought kill his little brother, with a sword. And then because of such an incident, he does believe his brother to be dead, except for the Dragon's Short, where he learns his brother is not dead. But there he swore off swords altogether, and that's why he can only use his bow. Do you think it would be cool if he could use his sword as like a secondary melee, or do you think that they should keep that in the realm of Genji?
Just keep it in the realm of Genji. Because I think it's a cool dynamic that he literally will not use the sword because he has this like thing where it's like, I thought I killed my brother with a sword.
Yeah.
It's like kind of this dark side. Like, that's the dark side. I do not want to mess with the dark side.
One of the more interesting facts that we have mentioned on the podcast previously is that, in fact, Hanzo and Genji did used to be one person. There is artwork out there, I'll see if I can flash it on the screen, that shows what appears to be sort of, it's like Genji with Hanzo's hair with a bow that has like green string and everything, much like Genji's armor, and the sword as well. Which, frankly, may have been overkill for considering how good players can be with both of those characters individually. Having a Genji Hanzo or a Genjo or a Hanji would have been... Hanji, yeah. So, Genji and Hanzo were originally envisioned as a single cyborg ninja hero named Hanzo, who wielded both a bow and a sword, used parkour, and had an assassinate ability. Using artwork for the assassin class from the cancelled Project Titan, they were split into two distinct heroes early in development. During development, Hanzo was known as Bow Ninja and Genji as Sword Ninja. Both Hanzo and Genji's kits drew heavily from an early version of Sombra that predated both heroes, which resulted in the Sombra concept being temporarily shelved. His kit may have also taken inspiration from that of Huntress, a character created for the original Prometheus pitch. Hanzo's old scatter arrow is one of the few abilities that have been removed and replaced in the game. So a little bit of early development on Hanzo there. Interesting that they took it from Sombra. Do you think it's just the cyber part of it, pretty much?
Can you repeat that? The connection kind of went weird.
Yeah, sure. So both Hanzo and Genji's kits drew heavily from an early version of Sombra that predated both heroes, which resulted in the Sombra concept being temporarily shelved. They don't really say, like, why, but my thought is cyber ninja. Maybe there was some hacking or something like that along those lines.
Possibly. It could just be the stealth thing as well. They might have had some stealth things going on where they could, like... I could see they had a ninja. They probably had like something where he smoke bombs and then just like disappears.
That's cool.
But that was probably something.
Now also,
side note about Hanzo and Genji is I have some really cool traditional Japanese style artwork of Hanzo and Genji from the Yukio Pop people on my wall right behind the computer. If
you send me a photo, I'll put it in the podcast.
Yeah, I'll definitely send a photo. But just please, nobody freak out. I know that the frames are slightly not aligned with each other. It bothers me too.
OCD over here. Alrighty, let's go over some trivia for Hanzo. So Hanzo's name could be a reference to the famous samurai and Japanese historical icon Hattori Hanzo, master of swordsmanship. Equipping either his lone wolf or okami skins will change his Dragon Strike's appearance to wolves, and will change his voice lines to reference wolves instead of dragons. Despite popular belief, Hanzo's Dragon Strike is not magic. This is weird. Hanzo's archery theme may have been inspired by Kyoto, a Japanese martial art of archery. The design on Hanzo's pants and scarf is a Japanese pattern called Seigeiha, which means blue sea and waves. Hanzo has delicate ankles, leading him to wearing greaves. I'm sorry.
Well, have you seen his fucking ankles? They're like that big.
His delicate ankles.
They're so tiny though. Like it literally looks like if he wasn't wearing those things, it literally looks like you could just go over and like touch your ankle with your toe, and he would just be like, "Oh, I am wounded."
Hanzo, get down from that wall. You know your ankles can't handle it. The Hanzo National Church was founded in Brazil by Mateus Mognon and was done to demonstrate the ease of founding a religion in the country. Interesting. There's apparently a Hanzo religion in Brazil. Both Genji and Hanzo are playable heroes in Heroes of the Storm, another Blizzard property. A Genji versus Hanzo Neo Droid diorama is on sale, as well as a Lego set, by the way. And a Demon Hanzo cute but deadly figure is also on sale. So, there you go.
Okay, can I just correct you? You keep calling it Neo Droid, it's Nendoroid.
Nendoroid, you're right. Neodroid just sounds better in my head, and sometimes
it's wrong.
My head
Tom.
overrides
it's wrong.
my eyes.
We have to get things right here. We're a fucking podcast.
Nendoroid. I have fucked up almost the entirety of this hero segment by just not paying attention to what I'm reading. So I do apologize to Hanzo mains everywhere. But you know, I'm sure you've had enough shit outside of me. If you had to guess his age, how old would you say Hanzo is?
27.
38.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
These people in Overwatch don't age. It's illegal. I banned this game.
Daddy Hanzo. That's what he's got, a couple of gray streaks in the hair. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I thought that was just him being like an edgy Japanese guy.
Nope. He's an old man. He's an old ass man. He's getting to daddy age. 40. He's almost halfway through his lifespan. Alrighty. So let's do one of my favorite parts of the podcast, which is favorite voice lines for the characters. And they have to be done, as you know, in the voice of the character. So what have you got for me as far as favorite voice lines for Hanzo?
I'm going to do a combo voice line, and that is, "My fate is written in sake."
I like it. I've heard you do that in game a lot. It's a good one. I liked it. Any others?
Let me think about it. It's been a while since I played him a lot. He's got some good ones. Oh, "I choose you, Spirit Dragon."
Good
Obviously one. A Pokemon reference.
Okay. I got a couple lined up here, which I think are fun. Let's go. I do like sake. I love the fact that he just yells it for no fucking reason. Sake! I always thought he said again for a long time. I thought he was
we
saying,
go again.
He does say again when he respawns sometimes, but I had confused the two in my head, and I thought he was just going again instead of sake. I don't know why. All right, sorry, I'm trying to find. I know I have some like particular favorites here, but I'm trying to find them. Here we go. What am I looking at here? Okay. When you know how characters, when they kill someone, they sometimes say something cocky. This is my favorite from Hanzo when he goes, "Hardly a challenge." It's just like real sassy with it. And also when he particularly kills Genji and he goes, "You were never my equal." Which is,
or just as when we were boys.
Yes, yeah, just as when we were boys.
One of my favorites from him, and it's so scary when he says it, is "so much death." It's so terrifying. He just like sounds like a psychopathic serial killer when he says it.
There's also the "step into the dojo," which is a good one. I like that one. Good one. And then let's do one of my, and this is I like this. It doesn't really have. It's a Winter Wonderland thing actually, but it's a gift for you. It's just so like random, but I like that one a lot as well. So yeah, so Hanzo does have he's a man of simple words, and there's two that we have to discuss because they're missing now. Of course, the infamous scatter, but also simple geometry. Which is like the most bullshit thing to say after flinging 100 arrows in a small room. Like you fucking knew what the geometry was of that room. It's like, just, like 100 arrows, you kill something. Oh yes, simple geometry.
Well, that's before people started. That was before people started just shooting at people's feet as if it was a shotgun.
Right.
Like people would actually like say, "Oh, someone just hid in that room. I'm just gonna like hit this wall. It's gonna go up, and like go around and hit them." So people actually used to use it strategically, it's just that it got abused.
True. Alrighty, so moving on from voice lines, let's go to favorite skins. I know that you like to do the team skins first. So what's your favorite team skin on Hanzo?
Well, team skins, I really like Fusion actually on him. Toronto Defiant and Boston Uprising. Those are just always going to come up for me. Pretty much. I just like those ones. But non-league skins, I really like, and these are ones that are complete opposite as far as the class of dress he's wearing. Casual and Scion. Casual is my favorite skin of all of them. I just love that kind of street look. He looks like sort of like he has money, but he's wearing this really casual clothing because there's like all that gold dragon stuff on his jacket. But he looks like casual, but also rich at the same time.
The casual one makes him look like he just tagged a wall somewhere to me. It's like he was just up on a wall. He tagged his name.
I like that. It literally looks like I have no idea why I like this aesthetic. It looks like he just tagged a wall and he's about to go smoke some weed.
Right?
Like, it's honestly, it just looks so cool. It's this Japanese street cool look that I really dig. I just love that skin.
Yeah, Japanese streetwear is something else. Sion or Skion, however you pronounce it. Big fan of that too. Sion, thank you. Business Hanzo, as I like to call him, or most people when they release that skin were like, "Oh, Daddy Hanzo." But he's, I like that one a lot. Daddy everything all day.
Overwatch community, you suck.
You do suck. But yeah, that one's, I do agree. That's a really nice one as well. That's actually the one I wear most of the time for him when I'm not doing league skins. I do like the Akami, has to be said. I like any skin that changes outside elements. So like McCree's lifeguard skin, that kind of stuff. Like anything that makes them say something else or do something else. I like that. That's like something you want with a skin is additional changes on top of it. And that's one of the only skins that does that.
I will note for Hanzo, there's pretty much none of his skins that I dislike. And that's rare. I pretty much like all of his skins.
I'm not such a fan of the young Hanzo look. I don't know if that's just a personal thing, but it just doesn't look. I don't like that.
I don't like his hair on that one, but other than that, I think it's cool.
And then there's the Kabuki. It's pretty good. Everyone loves
that
a bit
one.
of Kabuki.
I also enjoy.
Yeah, so some good skins he's got. Yeah, I actually think Hanzo's Boston Uprising skin looks pretty good too. I gotta say, he also looks pretty good in Houston Outlaws because it kind of looks like every Houston Outlaws skin kind of looks like the oh gosh, what's the one that everyone chooses for Genji and Orisa that's like black and green? I forget the name of it.
Well, there's carbon fiber for Orisa. The black and green one.
Genji has one that's almost identical. I forget what it is, but
I don't think he does actually. Tracer has one.
Yeah.
Tracer has a black and green one. That's anyway.
Also, Seoul Dynasty, very very Hanzo, black and gold. You know, very royal, regal, if you will. Alrighty. Let's talk about his place in the meta. So, Hanzo right now, arguably not super meta, more counter meta, as in, like we mentioned earlier, when you're playing against a bunker comp, he's a pretty useful pick. Have seen him show up a little bit this stage, though. Your thoughts? I
actually haven't watched much of the stage, so I actually don't really know where he fits into the meta right now. But yes, Shield Break, definitely. He's useful against Pharahs sometimes if you're good, and a lot of the league players obviously are good.
Yeah. Unfortunately, so are the Pharahs.
He is kind of niche, but right now, but still, he has his uses.
Yeah, I'd say he's not like out of the meta. He's not fallen out of the meta. He's not as
And you're
prominent as he
definitely
was
still
last
going to see
season.
him in your comp matches and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Solo king, you're going to see him.
Yeah. I think he was a lot more prominent when DPS was the favored meta. He's a big pick for a lot of Overwatch folks. But
Well, towards the end of last year, double sniper was pretty much the standard. But that was when Goats was still developing. And when people went Goats, they didn't really know how to play it.
Yeah.
So double sniper still dominated back then.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that the removal of scatter, the addition of his jump dash, and just kind of like I think all the changes they made to him sat well with me and did make him more meta-proof. He's definitely not 100% meta, but I think he sits sort of quietly on the outside waiting to be picked for specific situations is kind of how I see him right now. But I can see him, regaining his former glory as we kind of slowly but surely move away from the GOATS meta, which seems to be happening largely thanks to teams like Chengdu that are actually willing to buck the trend and try something different. I've been interesting to see how much McCree has been played this stage as well. A lot of McCree I've seen, mostly against Winston's, obviously for Flashbang and Fan the Hammer, but in general, just been like he's been almost the most prominent DPS hero that's been picked when you're running a sort of a version of GOATS that requires a DPS. And then the last part of our little Hanzo roundup here, and by the way, I do apologize for pronouncing it differently every time I say it. In England, it's Hanzo. In here, it's Hanzo, much like I would say Super Mario Brothers as opposed to Super Mario Brothers, so I have difficulty saying Hanzo's name the same way twice. So tweaks you would make tweaks you would make to Hanzo to potentially make him more viable for the meta.
I'm trying to think.
I want something to happen with their dragons.
Make his ankles less weak.
Like a button for ankle buff.
But yeah, the dragons, I don't know what they could do to the dragons though. Maybe make them faster?
Yeah, because you do get a significant warning. I mean, let's be honest, Hanzo about to fire dragons is one of the most obvious sort of call-outs in the game.
I feel like you have the most time to react to that one because like he can get through half his call-out and he's still spinning through the air like about to fire the arrow. Yeah. Like his dragons are probably one of the easiest ults to eat as D.Va. Yeah. Compared to like Mei where like she like says the first syllable and the thing's already flying past you.
Oh. That's the beginning. Like, don't. And
by that time, the robot's already past you. Right. Like, it's ridiculous.
You have to get lucky with Mei, pretty much. But yeah, so yeah, I think faster dragons is a good call. I think that's a good one. Less time to react to those would be
Maybe the
neat.
cast time could also be faster.
Yeah. Cast time
I don't know
faster.
if they should do both. Like, make the cast time. I actually wouldn't be opposed to them doing both.
I think that'd be fine. And when you think about his kit in general and how lackluster it is in terms of variety, I think that, giving him an ultimate that's a little bit more devastating, fast, powerful would be good. I actually would not be mad at it. I don't think Hanzo is in an unfair place. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that now so many heroes have armor, shields, and actual physical deployable shields or shields they carry, and there's all this kind of like, it's so hard for him to be as dominant as he was when it was largely DPS meta that it almost seems like giving him something that could take down a tank, even if he soloed a tank with it, because of the speed of it, would be fair. I think it's okay. I wouldn't be too mad about it. As far as the arrows themselves, I mean, I do think the hitbox is unfair, but at the same time, I can see why they give people a little leeway on it. Firing arrows is not an easy job when they're projectiles. He's not hit scan, so they do have to make up for it a little bit. So I'm kind of okay with where they're at, to be honest. I'd like to almost see another ability for him. I feel like there's just like something missing, and I don't know what it is. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. It doesn't have to be necessarily even like a powerful, like an attack ability. It could be a defense ability or something, some kind of like sight, some vision outside of the sonic arrow, perhaps.
See, I really want, and this has been spawned by seeing the cutscene for the event, is I really want somebody to have an ability that blinds people, because Mercy does that swooping in thing and then blinds the drivers of the truck. I'd like to see some hero have that ability. I feel like Hanzo could almost be a hero that could make use of that. If someone gets too close, he could just blind them and escape.
Yeah. Or like
Even
the
if it's
smoke
just
bomb,
for a
like you
brief
mentioned
second.
before.
Even if it's just like a brief second, like he can just escape somehow and give him a bit more, because the jump does let him escape, but literally just prevent the enemy from really, like, they just have to panic fire for like a second or two.
I wonder if they could give him, like, they originally in the concept and development work, they talked about giving him some kind of an assassination ultimate. I wonder if they'd be able to give him like a miniature version of that, where it was almost like when you sneak up from someone behind on like a sandbox game and you press a button to take them out, kind of thing. Like if you can get behind
Like
someone.
Halo.
Yeah. Like if you can get behind someone else's hands, like you don't have the invisibility of Sombra, so it'd be difficult to actually get yourself in position to do it. But if you could get in position to do it, you could pull off just a quick kind of like, maybe he pulls a arrow out and just like cuts their neck or something on a squishy.
Just fucking stabs them in the eye socket with it.
Why not? Make it a little bit more gory. But something like that. Like maybe some kind of, either that or some kind of crippling ability. Like maybe one of his arrows has a bleed effect or something similar to like fire from dynamite and stuff like that, like an overtime passive.
He could fire an arrow that blinds enemies.
Yeah.
If we wanted to go the blinding route.
If we're keeping the
he could literally
arrows.
just be like Hawkeye or fucking Katniss Everdeen and have like these different arrows in his quiver.
Yeah.
Like,
fire arrow.
Like an
not?
explosive one. This one like fucking electrocutes people or some shit. Like
I'm not mad about it.
you
I'll be
can't
honest.
give him too many things,
Yeah.
but like maybe one other special arrow potentially.
Yeah. One other special arrow, and or some kind of escape ability, like smoke or blinding, I think would be good. And then speed up his dragons. I think that's how we tweak him to make him more meta worthy and not necessarily break him and make him overpowered. Cool. Glad we came to a consensus on that. Blizzard, get on it. All right, so that is episode 5 of Hero Recall. I have been Tom. This has been Mr. TigratoPower, and we're always excited to have you guys on board. Don't forget, we do have a Twitter page, channel. I don't know, what the fuck do you call it? Account?
A Twitter page.
We tweet.
We tweet somewhere.
We tweet. And to join us on there and ask us questions and or suggestions for the show, you can find us at Hero Recall OW for Overwatch. So Hero Recall OW for Overwatch. And we're going to be right there if you want to talk to us about anything at all. We are super approachable, as we have mentioned in the past. If you like the show, please let us know. Please post comments. We love it. We want to change it to benefit you for what you like. If you think there's nothing that needs to be changed and we're so perfect, just let us know, because we'd like to hear that too. But yeah, this has been a labor of love for both me and James so far. It's something that we've wanted to do for a while because we're both completely sadly obsessed in Overwatch, and I think so far it's been really fun. I've enjoyed every time that we've got together to do this, so we will continue to push through the rest of the hero pool going forward. Once we run out of heroes, don't worry, we have backup plans. So we're going to be talking about maps and teams and all kinds of stuff. So but by the time we get through all 29 heroes, I'm sure there'll be at least 8 more added, so we'll be going for a little while longer past that too. Any words that you have before we leave? What's that?
Finger heart.
It's what?
Finger heart.
Finger heart?
Yeah.
This is new to me. I've never seen that.
Yeah. What?
I'm sorry.
There's like a very famous GIF of Gaguri doing it.
Finger heart?
This.
Didn't know it. Must be.
It's very popular in OWL. I'm surprised you haven't heard of it.
I've literally never seen that before.
But yeah, a lot of the OWL players, like the famous one is Gaguri, for me at least. Gaguri did that. But it's supposed to be like that's the bottom of the heart, and you just imagine the top of it.
See, my thumb doesn't really. This is a little bit too monstrous.
It's okay. I've like screwed up my hand so I can do like Vulcan salutes and stuff.
Alrighty. So thanks very much for joining us for this week's episode, and of course we will be back as soon as we feel like it. Basically, no, it's every 2 weeks or so. But thank you so much for joining us, because the world does need more heroes like you. See you next time. Bye bye.